Everybody, it's your boy Terry. Take two. Having trouble completing videos this week. I was halfway through the last video when my drummer called and said, "Where's my money?" Anyway, I was also in kind of a jovial mood because, coming to you live from the Palace, Palace O'Brien. And over here we have Devil Spawn Xena. She looks nice, but she's very standoffish. And I was just kind of in a jovial mood. My sister Erin, not Clorox Erin, my sister Erin, about an hour ago, sent me and my brother that video link from YouTube of the young black kids playing Beatles in the subway. Even though she's a subscriber and a Patreon, I guess she doesn't watch the videos and heard me say, "You don't have to link me to that video anymore." I get it. Erin's great, though. We love her. And I'm contractually bound to love her because I'm related to her. Anyway, someone asked me about my sort of life story, and I'll try to give it to you in as nutshell form as possible. Hold on, let me shut the door here so my son doesn't look in on me like I'm a crazy person. I was born in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, where I resided for the first 18 or so years of my life after high school. Joined the U.S. Navy, signed up for 6 years, was kicked out after 4 months. I had a knee issue. And at 6 months, I believe any government job, you get vested in the pension program. And for the military, you got vested in your GI Bill. So if they can get you out before 6 months, they will get you out before 6 months. I went from sore knee to medically discharged in about 3 weeks, which is about as fast as any government agency can work. And that was disappointing because I'd signed up sort of to follow my father's footsteps. Not like he was a big Navy guy, but I knew he did Navy and then went on to college and other things. So, anyway, my father passed when I was 8. He was 42. Believe that. Um, After that, I worked some jobs. I went to college. I lasted 3 semesters at the California University of Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. I was an English education major. Did not graduate. I got caught up in the college partying lifestyle. Pretty much blew off my first semester. My second 2 semesters, I did very well, but not enough to raise my grade point average to a level where they decided I would be a good student. So I didn't reach those markers, and so my college career ended. I probably could have pursued it, but I would have had to pay out of pocket. I just didn't have that ability back then. After college, came back home, worked some jobs. I dabbled in theater. There was a great dinner theater in Kennett Square called Three Little Bakers. At least one of my brothers, Dan, did a show there. And I'd always had the sort of theater bug through high school. I did Guys and Dolls my sophomore year, The King and I my junior year, Annie my senior year. I had no lead parts in any of them, which is a whole political thing. I'll get into it in another video. I don't have the emotional strength to do it right now. But still sort of carried an interest in music through my teen and early 20s. Three Little Bakers closed in the mid to late 80s in Kennett Square and reopened in Pike Creek, Delaware, in a much larger facility with a PGA level golf course and country club. And in fact, Three Little Bakers still hosts, I believe, an annual LPGA event in Pike Creek, Delaware. And the Three Little Bakers Dinner Theater was a part of that whole country club complex. The theater in Kennett Square was about 250, 300 seats. The Pike Creek facility was about 1,200 seats with a nice balcony and mezzanine. I was doing shows at the old Three Little Bakers in Kennett, which at that time was called the Big Apple, run by a local family. Not run very well. It was all kind of sketchy and shady. We got paid in, buffet. You could have as much as you want to eat at the buffet before the show. I did a series of shows there just to kind of cut my teeth. None of them were great. A few of them were a disaster. A couple of them were decent, but I did West Side Story there. I got to play Riff, and one day got to play Tony because our Tony was sick. And I was going to give up theater and just sort of maybe go back to school or pursue some sort of trade. And I had heard that the new Three Little Bakers in Delaware was mounting a production of West Side Story. I figured, you know what? I just did it here. Maybe I can get in down there. West Side Story was kind of the Broadway of southeastern mid-Atlantic dinner theaters, and they actually paid real money. So I thought, well, maybe I'll give that a try. So I auditioned for, I'm sorry, they were doing Evita and then they were doing West Side Story. So I decided to audition for Evita, a show I never really knew, in the hopes that when I didn't get Evita, I would go back for West Side Story and maybe they would know me then and say, hey, we could put this guy in the chorus somewhere. Anyway, long story short, I was cast in Evita. I used to go see all the shows at Baker's, and those shows always had the same 8 to 12 core cast members. So it was very much a clique. Uh, and I thought it was going to be very difficult to break into that clique, which it probably would have been if a director by the name of Ken Ermston had not been directing Evita, and he very much went outside of that sort of clique population and brought in a bunch of outsiders, and I was one of those outsiders, and there was actual tension between me and the other outsiders versus the Three Little Bakers clique, even though I met and fell in love with one of those members of the clique, a girl named Kristen, who I moved down here with, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I did 2 shows at Baker's. It was Evita, which I still one of my favorite shows I've ever done. I was just in the chorus in the background, but you're in every scene in the ensemble of Evita. And then we did West Side Story. The funny story there is I started out, first I wasn't cast. Then they said, would you please come play No Name Shark number 6? And I said, okay. So a few people must have said thanks, but no thanks, and they were cast in the show. So I eventually got in the show. And then the guy playing Action, he's the guy who sings, he's the really angry Jet, the short angry Jet. His father was one of the 3 Bakers who at that time was going through the end phase of his life. So Hugo had to lead the cast, and they asked me, would you mind stepping into the part of Action? I said, that'd be great. Then there was a little bit of a pay raise. So wonderful. I'm playing Action. The show is about to open, and the guy playing Riff, who was the leader of the Jets, a man named Rich Ruccolo, left the show to get some national tour of, I want to say it was a national children's tour of Wizard of Oz. And so we did the rest of the show. I stepped into the part now of Riff. So I was on my 4th part in the 6-week rehearsal process and went from not being cast to No Name Shark number 6 to Action to Riff's understudy to now I'm Riff. We did the first week of the run in 1992. Then there was the blizzard of 92. So we only did 2 shows of that cast, then came in, had a rehearsal, then the rest of us all went up in our new parts. Jump ahead 3 to 4 years later, I'm looking up at the television in the bar at Elaine's, and I see a Diet Coke commercial. And who's in that Diet Coke commercial but Rich Ruccolo, the actor who left, whose place I took in West Side Story. And then a couple years after that, he appeared in the show 2 Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place opposite a very young Ryan Reynolds. And that show was on the air for 2.5 seasons. So this guy, Rich, went on to have a very nice career in Hollywood. He was on a couple of shows. He was on the Reba McEntire sitcom that was on CMT for a number of years. I don't know the name of that. I think it was just Reba. He was in a couple of movies. I know he was on an episode of X-Files because I was a big X-Files guy, and I was very jealous he got to be on X-Files. I still Facebook him every once in a while. Hey, whatever you're working on, if you need an understudy, I'll be your guy. So there you go. So anyway, Baker's, during our time at Baker's, we went to, myself and my then girlfriend Kristen, and we went up to audition in New York for Oklahoma, the traveling company of Oklahoma. I knew I wasn't going to get the gig, but I thought it'd be good to get the experience. We ran into a friend of a friend who had just come from a little place in Cape May that was looking for male actors. He gave us the information. That place turned out to be Elaine's. So I did Evita. I did West Side Story. I then auditioned for My Fair Lady. And again, wasn't cast. And then after several people said no, they called me and said, would you come be in My Fair Lady? I was like, well, I guess I'm your 27th choice, but I need a job, so I'll do it. And I went to the first choreography rehearsal, and the woman was kind of insane. And it was just she was doing like very Bob Fosse-esque stuff and just kind of doing it once and then saying, okay, now you guys do it. And I can dance, but I'm not that kind of dancer, and I just wasn't feeling it. And during this time, I'd been having sort of negotiations with Elaine's. I'd gone down, I'd auditioned, and I kept waiting for a phone call back that I never got. So I went home that night, and I called them. I was like, look, you guys want to hire me or what? And they said, yes, when can you be here? I said, well, West Side Story closes on May 22nd. I can be there May 23rd. Great. So I made those arrangements. I quit My Fair Lady. I was living at that time with Kristen in Delaware and her roommate Bonnie. I'm really rambling here, and we're already 10 minutes. I'll try to tighten it up. Um, then Kristen, we'd only been together a few months. She was, oh, what am I going to do without you? Well, you'll get over me. Or you could come to Cape May with me. So she auditioned and she got hired. And then another friend of ours from the cast, a man named Paul Goodman, he auditioned. He got hired. We all sort of moved down here together. Got a really crummy apartment on Sewell Avenue in Cape May, and we worked together, um, ate together, lived together, dined together. Everything you do together in a year in Cape May, we did, and our relationship subsequently fell apart, and we split up. And I left Elaine's after the 1993 season. I went back towards the end of the 94 season after scuffling along for about a year. I was homeless for a short period, dependent on the kindness of others for a short period for places to live. Spent a few nights in the car. These things happen because I wasn't going home. I wasn't going home. Eventually got back into Elaine's. Look, I'll come to work. I'll be quiet. I'll do what you want. I'll wait tables, this and that, da-da-da. Got back in. So I spent basically 1993 to 1999 at Elaine's. Our first night at Elaine's, I might have to do this, this is History of Terry Part 1, History of Terry Part 2 might be tomorrow. Our first night at Elaine's was May 23rd, 1993. A man named Jamie Cherry, whom I still adore to this day, was assigned to sort of show us around town. So he took us over to the Ugly Mug bar on the mall. And in the bar that night was a band called Southwind, and they were having their sing along with the band contest. Basically live band karaoke. So I said, hey, I'll come sing a song with you. And I jumped up and I sang this song, Tempted by Squeeze. And, I did pretty good. I screwed up some of the lyrics, but it was fun, And this was like every Wednesday was a sing along with the band contest. So we would go every Wednesday and sing along with the band. And for a while, I knew I was the best singer there, but they kept giving me second or third place because it was like 150 for first, 75 for second, 50 for third. They kept giving me second and third, and I was like, you guys, I was obviously the best singer here tonight. Why do you keep giving me second and third? And the bass player, Tim, said, well, you can win first place once. You can win second and third place all summer. I was like, okay, good looking out. Again, long story short there, in 1993, I was the guy who went in and sang once a week. Then it was twice a week. Then it was, as my relationship with Kristen went downhill, my attendance at the Ugly Mug went uphill. And soon I was in there 3, 4, 5 nights a week, and they would call me up to sing 2, 3. Hey, do you know this one? Do you know that song? So I was doing 6, 8 songs a night with them. And then 94, their singer left, the fabulous Rose Kelly, one of the great singers you'll ever hear. She left. They called me up, and from 1995 to 1999, I was the lead singer for Southwind. So 93, 99, Elaine's, 95, 99, Southwind. 4 of those years did both jobs together and was probably certifiably mentally ill during those years because working all day, working all night, sleep a few hours, do it all again. At the tail end of 1994, a young lady named Catherine entered our dinner theater. There's a whole other story behind that too, but that's where Catherine and I met late 94. She came down to see a few of the Christmas shows, and she was going to be a core member of our cast in 1995. Catherine and I were friendly, and then we were not friendly, and then we were friendly again, then we were not friendly again. We had this whole sort of love-hate thing going on. And then one winter, we were the only 2 left, so we became very friendly, and it moved beyond that. And Catherine and I got married in 2000, and we have our 3 wonderful kids, and that's where we met, was at Elaine's. I quit Elaine's after 1999, and I quit Southwind after 1999. I'd had enough of both. And in 2000, I started the O'Brien Brothers Band with my brother Mike. That band was 2000, 2001, 2002. I negotiated my return to Elaine's and was there again from 2002 to 2004, this time as the house director. I didn't really write, I was the director. Of course, that was 3 years. It ended the first time I quit, second time they fired me. And shortly after that, 2005, I was in a televised singing contest called Give Me the Mic Philadelphia. I came in 5th place in my group, which is ridiculous because I was the best singer there. But it was a younger skewing, urban skewing network, so I got it. I wasn't mad. I was about 35 then. Anyway, part of the prize package for that show was a karaoke system. It was a car, a recording contract, and a karaoke system. And I had been a big karaoke fiend up in Pennsylvania and Delaware. And I said, if I win this show, I'm going to start my own karaoke business. If I don't, I'm going to take out a small loan and start my own karaoke business. And that's what I did. In 2005, I started Terryoke with a small business loan of about, oh my God, 15 minutes. About $5,000. Bought the system, bought the CDs, got all the stuff. And Terryoke has been running regularly since 2005. 2005 to 2009, I was just a karaoke host. 2009, I was ready to be done being a karaoke host, so I went to work for Maury's Peers. 2003, I became a columnist for Exit Zero magazine. And I wrote that column from 2003 to about 2012. And as part of that writing job, I became a short story writer. Murder mysteries, ghost stories, supernatural, black comedy kind of stories. And that was how I got hooked up with Maury's Peers. They were opening a new haunted house and wanted someone to help them develop the sort of story behind the haunted house. Jack Maury called Jack Wright, who recommended me. I went up there on a Friday, got a couple ideas, went back on a Saturday morning and pitched to a crowd of about 1,200 people. The Daffy Group, Dark Artists, Fan Enthusiasts, something like that. Dark Amusement Fan Enthusiasts. It was 1,200 people, and I'm just blowing smoke about what the ride's going to be about. So from 2000, I was officially hired at Maury's in 2010 to 2014. I ran the Ghost Ship. We parted ways when I was again approached by Elaine's to go back to work there, which I did 2015, 16, 17. I was the artistic director at Elaine's. I wrote, directed, acted in the shows, waited the tables, trained the waiters. I was also the the entertainment manager, so I booked the bands, hired the magic acts, basically anything having to do with entertainment at Elaine's I was in charge of. I thought I did a pretty good job at it. In the meantime there, I was a Saturday morning 80s DJ at 98.7 The Coast. This was, I couldn't even tell you what year that was. I'm trying to think, 2012, I started the Love Me, or 2013, started the Love Me Dudes, the Beatles tribute band. That same year, I started that band was called The Glass Houses, a Billy Joel tribute. Did 2 shows in 2013. That was it. We revived it in 2017. We're now called The Strangers, and we have those 2 shows coming up this year. Gosh, there's probably more that I'm forgetting, but that's the thumbnail. My Cape May life has been Elaine's, Southwind, Elaine's, Terryoke, Ghost Ship, Elaine's, Exit Zero. Those are the big ones. If you need a thumbnail, just skip to minute 17 of this video. That's all. I had more to talk about this week, but I think that is just about enough for one night. Share, subscribe. Recommend this to anyone you think might like it. Hit the About page, hit the Patreon, support the arts in Cape May. One day closer to opening Downton Stabby at the Iron Pier. So for those of you who didn't know my life story, hope this sheds a little light. For those of you who did, I promise I won't be telling this same story again tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat. Start doing these in the morning when my diction is most fluid, and I think I got to shave too. Anyway, till next time, be good.